Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for making time in your busy agendas to be here tonight with us. This is an evening to get inspired by committed young people who are making the difference in their communities in terms of water and sanitation issues that they are experiencing themselves, and they have come up with amazing projects to tackle those issues. So the program for tonight is packed with amazing presentations, also for wonderful guests. We will start by welcoming remarks by Young Water Solutions. We have the pleasure to have the presence here of the Vice Prime Minister of Belgium, Alexander De Croo. We'll have then introductions from the Ambassador of Switzerland to Belgium, and then we will do the 1 hour pitches from 13 young entrepreneurs who have been doing now 1 month training on how to turn their initiative on water and sanitation to a sustainable social business that not only tackles water and sanitation issues, but also creates job opportunities, empower women, and do it in a sustainable way. We will have short intermezzos, so to keep it flowing, and to also talk about the enabling environment for this to support young entrepreneurs. So after that, there will be opportunities for a reception and to have some drinks and something to eat while talking to the fellows in depth about their initiatives. So first, I want to introduce Bart de Vos, who will do the welcoming remarks. And I want to also announce that this event is being live streamed on our Facebook page. The UN Water is actually sharing that live stream, so hopefully we will have a very big audience also listening to this event. So thank you everyone again for being here, and Bart, over to you.
Mr. Vice Prime Ministers, Excellencies, Ambassadors, and ladies and gentlemen, of course, Young Water Fellows, very welcome. Also from my side, I'm really excited to host you here tonight, and it's really excited to see again such a diverse group of ambassadors, of policymakers, international experts, professionals here gathered around celebrating the potential of young people to take action for water. Young Water Solutions may be new to many of you here tonight. Young Water Solutions is an organization born from the belief that we should stop seeing young people as the victim of water problems in the world, which we do all too often. Young Water Solutions, therefore, was actually created with the belief that it's time that we start thinking about the potential of young people to become water solutions providers. And therefore, Young Water Solutions was created to provide these enabling conditions that we believe can help young people unlock their potential to implement water solutions. So our mission is to enable the talented young people that you see here in the room and other young people worldwide to implement their own field projects and social businesses to tackle the challenges of water and sanitation. That's what we do and how we do. This is the Young Water Fellowship, our flagship program. We launch a worldwide call for applications. We select the most promising young people that apply, and then we provide them with the 3 enabling conditions that we think will enable them to implement their project ID. The 3 enabling conditions that empower them to really sustainably provide water and sanitation to their communities, which are an intensive training program, seed funding, and coaching and mentorship. In 2017, we organized the pilot edition of the flagship program, Young Water Fellowship. As we speak today, the 2017 cohort of Young Water Fellows has successfully implemented their water and sanitation solutions, and they are providing access to water and sanitation to more than 10,000 people worldwide. On the screen, you can see some pictures of these projects, and I really warmly invite you to go to our website and check out more information about these projects. 2017, we think we may say was a success, but we also learned from the lessons learned of this edition. And one of the most important lessons that we learned is that if we want to be ambitious, if we want to have a scalable impact, and even a more sustainable impact, we have to focus on young social entrepreneurs. And that is how we come up with the current concept of the current Young Water Fellowship model, which is targeting young people with social business ideas around water and sanitation. And if we are here tonight, it is actually only because we found a generous donor who believed in this concept and who wanted to support us for 3 years, who stood up to support us, and that's the Swiss SDC agency, among some others. For 3 years, we will, with the support of SDC as a main donor, run each year a global fellowship edition, and also in 2019, a regional fellowship edition. And each edition, again, will be built around the same concepts, which is selecting the most promising young water entrepreneurs, offering them an intensive training, provided by the Swiss startup incubator CEWAS, which is present today in the room. We will provide the young people with seed funding and then also coaching and mentorship. I think it would be a shame if I even dare to spend 1 second talking about these talented young people, because they are here in the room tonight and they will tell their inspiring stories themselves. But let me, before I conclude, just make some remarks about our future. I think there are 3 strategic aspirations which I want to share with you tonight. First, Young Water Solutions really aspires to grow by exploring new funding opportunities, new sources of funding, ranging from philanthropy to impact investment, but we also have to be truly progressive in exploring innovative finance mechanisms. Second, we really want to scale up our impact, and we believe that we can scale up the impact by scaling down the geographical level at which we operate. We will organize the first regional edition of the fellowship next year, but on the midterm, our aim will be to organize multiple regional fellowships and, who knows, even national fellowship editions. Because empowering a high number of young people can be done most cost efficiently when you go to a local level. And that's also the level where we can impact a big group, concentrated group of young people in one same local area. And third, we want to contribute to systemic change. What the current fellowship model does is actually we create the enabling condition for individual young social entrepreneurs. On the midterm, we want to go beyond, and on the midterm, we also want to work with stakeholders such as national governments, financial institutions, training institutes, and so on, to create the enabling conditions we're talking about tonight, not at the individual level, but for young people at large in certain areas and countries. Before I conclude, I want to repeat my gratitude very genuinely to all the partners that support us, and a lot of them are present here tonight. It is actually incredible looking at the diversity of partners that we have behind us, ranging from a local school in Zottegem, over major water companies such as Aquafin, to the UN Water Agency, and even the Swiss government, and many other governments. Today, I also want to thank especially those funding partners who are supporting the 2018 Young Water Fellowship. First and foremost, the Swiss SDC, represented by His Excellency the Ambassador, and by Amanda Amman and Andreas Steiner from the SDC agency. From France, we have the local authority of Saint-Omer and Agence de l'Eau Picardie. From private sector, Aquafin, represented today by its CEO. And last but not least, also Good Planet. Beyond all the organizations who have been crucial in making this come true, there's also one person in particular we have to think, and that's Antonella Valiente, who has spent a lot of efforts in making this program come true. And my very last vote of thanks goes to the Belgian Vice Prime Minister Alexander De Croo for being with us tonight. The presence of Minister De Croo is highly important to us because Mr. De Croo has played a pioneering role in promoting innovative finance for development and in promoting full gender equality, about which I think he will maybe tell us more later tonight. These are also 2 strategic priorities for our organization. And Minister, I really appreciate that you found the time while running a country and launching a new book, an eye-opening book on gender equality. You also found time this week to be with us. And I'm sure that the stories of the young women you will hear later, and also of the young men, of course, will give you hope for the future. And you'll hear the stories from themselves. So ladies and gentlemen, very lastly, I wish you a wonderful night as you listen to the inspiring stories of these water fellows. I'm sure that the human stories of these wonderful young people will stay with you. And most of all, I hope that you will never forget that young people are water solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bart, and thank you because you already did my job in introducing our next speaker. So I welcome the Vice Prime Minister of Belgium, Mr. Alexander De Croo, on stage for the keynote. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And for me, it's a pleasure being here again, because I think now it's the third time that we meet each other. Once was actually in my hometown, which is called Brakel. I think most people don't know it, except the school from Zottegem probably know where it is. That's the neighboring city, actually, to the place where I grew up and where I live. And actually, we had an opportunity to talk there, which I actually found quite inspiring. It does not happen that often that in my hometown I can talk about development cooperation, and definitely not so often about entrepreneurship and water and how it is being linked. As you said in your introduction, well, you talked about launching a book and running a country. Running a country in Belgium, let's keep that in the middle, who really is running the country. But launching a book, that is correct. I launched a book last week. For now, it's only available in Dutch and in French, which I know here limits the audience a little bit. But the title of the book is The Century of Women, Why Feminism is Also Liberating Men. Now, I know it's often a bit a slippery slope as a man to write about this topic, because you can get two reactions. One reaction is something which is called mansplaining, which is basically men telling women how they should solve the issues we both have, of course. The second response you could often get is men saying, well, why are you still writing about this? Feminism has been there for such a long time here in Belgium. Everything is gender equal, and maybe if it's not, it's just a matter of time before we get there. I disagree with that. I think we are definitely not there, and I do not think that only time will solve it. I think we will have to do more things. Now, especially in the developing world, we see the gender inequality. You see it in a much sharper way. And what we call WASH, I guess most of you know the concept of WASH, water, sanitation, and hygiene, has a very big impact on the opportunities you give, especially to girls. Very often we see that if you're in a situation where you have to go get water, it's very often the girls who have to do it, with a big impact on their opportunity of going to school. Going to school, which has an impact on a lot of things. Very often being able to continue go to school is very linked to the moment where you become a mother. And too often we see girls that become mother at the age of 12, 13 years old, get 7, 8 children, and basically limit their future in life to being a mother. Now, if that is a free choice, who would I be to object against it? The matter, of course, today is that it is not really a free choice, even if at first sight it would seem that it is a free choice. Now, one of the things that we have learned, and I think it's very much in line with what we will be seeing here tonight, is that if you want WASH projects to be successful, is that working together with the local community and local ownership is really one of the most important elements. A lot of us will be involved in all types of projects, and sometimes they are linked to, for example, service clubs. Going to a place and drilling a water well is something that we do very often. But it is too often also a thing that if you go back a few years later, you see that the impact is not always what we and the local inhabitants would have expected that it is. Very often there are issues with maintenance, but also very often we see that the proceeds of the water are not exactly going to the type of continued investment that we would like to see. And there are models to make it much more sustainable. And one model that really touched me, and it was something I saw really at the beginning when I was a Minister of Development Cooperation. It's a project in Kinshasa, in the DRC, in Kimbanseke, which is in one of the suburbs of Kinshasa. And what we did there with Belgian cooperation was to, yes, drill the holes, but to say, well, actually we should build a commercial model around it. Instead of giving the water is going to be sold, which is not such an easy thing to do. We got a lot of pushback, especially in Belgian Parliament, saying, well, but why are you selling water? Water is a life necessity. This is not something that one should make a profit on. Still, we went ahead, And the organization we built was an organization built around local women. And this is basically women running the water wells, selling the water. Now, selling the water has two big advantages. First of all, well, if there's a price on something, you are careful with it. So the water utilization improved dramatically. The second thing is that, well, if you have an income, that income can be used. And it was being used to, of course, maintain the installation, but the profits were also used in investing in local community services, such as healthcare, such as education. I'm personally very much convinced that, and we talk a lot about sustainability and about sustainable development. There is no sustainable development if at some point there is not one degree of profit. And I'm not pleading here for monopoly profits, I'm not pleading here for fiscal evasion routes and so on. This is very far away from what I am talking about. What I am talking about is a certain activity can only be sustainable if at some point there is some proceeds that you can use to reinvest in that activity or in other things. And we see that linked to water, this is really a crucial element. And it very often leads to other types of entrepreneurship. Other types of entrepreneurship where in general, women are actually much better at than men. I remember two discussions I have had on this topic. One was with Theo Brito, which maybe you know. Theo Brito is the CEO of AB InBev, which is the biggest brewer in the world, apart Belgium to some degree. And one of the things he said to me is that they distribute their beer very often through very small distributors. He says, I prefer having women doing it because my experience is that first of all, they sell more, but secondly, they persevere. If we compare men and women in this, we see that they continue in doing that, and that we have much less fraud than we have it with men. I'm not here to stigmatize men, but trying to break the stereotypes. But very often the stereotypes would say that entrepreneurship is a male activity, not a female activity. It is not by surprise that all of the microfinance initiatives are always focusing on women, because they just know that the level of fraud and the level of tenacity, if I can call it that way, is much higher. And all the project linked to this are, in my view, a gigantic path forward to touch on entrepreneurship. By the way, we also see that when women have their own income, the impact on their families is much higher than when men have their own income. When women have their own income, on average, 90% of that income is coming back to their families. In the case of men, it's only 60%. Now, what happens with those missing 30%? I'm actually losing my voice on this. It's some kind of economic development, but maybe not exactly the ones we're looking at. But having women with their own income is one of the best things you can do to make them independent, but also to make sure that their children are going to go to school and have the opportunity to be independent as well. So to conclude, I'm very excited to be here tonight, to be able to listen to some of the projects that will be presented here. And for me, this combined really a few elements that are close to my heart. We all know that water is really one of the essential elements to be able to have the basic comfort in life. It's a huge opportunity for realizing gender equality, which is something I told about is very close to my ambitions. And it's also often very much linked to entrepreneurship. And I'm convinced that entrepreneurship is actually one of the best ways of creating a better life and more wealth in a certain country. So looking forward to this evening, and congratulations to everyone who made it here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. And before you sit, we have something for you. One of our fellows, she's from the Maasai tribe in Kenya. You will soon hear about her, but she will give you something that is very particular from her tribe. Eliza, please. Can you explain what this necklace is?
Okay, before I hand it to the Prime Minister, this is
not yet.
okay, Vice Prime Minister, I'm sorry.
Don't tweet that.
Okay, this, as you can see, it's a jewelry from the Maasai community. It's usually worn by Maasai Morans. Maasai Morans are like soldiers in our community. They protect us from external attack. So it's a very special jewelry. Yeah.
Okay.
And while we still have the minister in the room, I will just ask the audience for 2 minutes patience.
Don't take a picture just of me.
Exactly.
So let's please join.
And we have some fellows that are sitting over there. Hiral, Purva, please join.
This way.
Everyone shares. Yeah.
Let's move a bit this way. We'll move forward.
Yes. Yes. Let's come here. So many cameras.
It's a sign of the times.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much. The minister mentioned some very key elements of water supply and sanitation projects, and operation and maintenance challenges, women empowerment will be issues that will be addressed by the fellows tonight when you hear their projects. So now I would like to welcome the representative of a country without whom it would be not possible to be organizing this tonight. And I now welcome Your Excellency, the Swiss Ambassador of Switzerland to Belgium, who will do some key remarks as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Prime Minister, for your inspiring thoughts and statement. Dear colleagues, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear Mr. De Vos, but above all, dear Young Water Fellows. Young Water Fellows, tonight is only a step on your way, but a proud one. You have just completed your training through quite a number of countries, I hear. Not only Switzerland, but Sweden, Italy, Belgium, and you're getting ready to return to your home base and continue, deepen your action. Your burden is ahead, but with the whole community represented here, expressing their confidence in your skills, your knowledge, your leadership. You are to be drivers of change. You will transform opportunities into progress. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which guides our efforts for a more sustainable and inclusive world, highlights the importance to address the needs of young people and to harness their potential as active citizens for peace and development. The success of this agenda depends, amongst others, on empowering young people as agents of change and equipping them with skills, knowledge, and confidence in their abilities. Too often, however, the opportunities of the young generation are limited. Especially young people are significantly more at risk of being affected by climate change, political instability, and poverty. Very often, young people, including children, are primary victims of local and global water-related challenges, for instance, through impact on their health, education, or livelihoods. The way we manage water resources today and the policy decisions we take have long-standing implications on the availability of and access to safe water for future generations. Therefore, we must ensure that young people are appropriately represented and included in decision-making processes and in the sustainable development and management of water resources. Global trends such as artificial intelligence and big data will profoundly change this sector, demanding new ideas, innovative approaches, and inclusive business solutions. In this context, there is an urgent need now to move from advocacy to action. Switzerland firmly believes that young people can play a key role in advancing our societies and economies, including the water sector. We are convinced that social innovation and entrepreneurship led by young people has a tremendous potential to provide technologies and services to those lacking safe and affordable access to water and sanitation. We encourage and support young changemakers to unlock their entrepreneurial potential, create impact in their communities, and drive innovation into the water sector. Switzerland is committed to enabling the young generation to reach its full personal and professional potential while addressing some of the most important water and sanitation challenges. Dear Young Water Fellows, I hope that the tools that you have acquired during the training in the past 4 weeks to develop context-specific, sustainable business solutions in water and sanitation will enable you to lead long-term positive change in your communities and beyond. Apply disruptive thinking that challenges traditional approaches to sustainable development. Question the status quo, develop and try new ideas, and of course, learn from mistakes. Do although exchange with experienced professionals and engage in policymaking to reduce the manifold barriers that young people are facing to reach their full potential. Your innovative capacities can have a significant positive impact on the social and economic development of your communities and culture. I congratulate you for your current achievement and wish you now a lot of success as young water entrepreneurs. And I enjoy very much being with you tonight. I wish us all a very pleasant row of meeting, and I'm looking forward to hearing, seeing, learning more about your project and endeavors. Thank you.
Ambassador, we also have something for you. A little gift from the Maasai as well.
Oh, yeah, small, is it? Thank you. That's a beautiful piece. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And while thanking the Swiss ambassador, I also want to thank the other national ambassadors that are here present today. So we have about 20 other ambassadors, some of them from the fellows countries as well, who came here all the way to listen to their presentations. So with no further ado, we will start hearing what their initiatives are about. So just to give a bit of context about where they are at which stage they are at, these young people you will be hearing next have been selected of over 430 applications that we received. So the fellowship program starts with a call for applications because we really want to target local young people. We do a lot of effort in that outreach, and even if this year we had only a 20 days call, we still received 430 applications. So there's a lot of demand out there from young people with innovative ideas, with commitment, and looking for resources to be able to set up their social businesses. 10 of them were selected, 10 of them started a training. The training is delivered by our partner in Switzerland, SEWAS, who are experts in helping water and sanitation entrepreneurs turn their ideas into social businesses. And they shared also the training with 4 other outstanding young people who will also be pitching here tonight. So a group of a total of 14 young people did this training. One of our fellows has had to go back to India, unfortunately, because of family issues. And the first fellow to present today will be Anna from Brazil. Anna, I don't want to spoil what you're going to say, but I just want to let the audience know that what she's going to present, she started when she was 15 years old. So it's a very inspiring case of how a high school student can really come up with a water solution. Anna, first. Do you want to use this one? Is that it? Yeah. So that people, or maybe like that.
I also want to add that I stopped to grow up when I was 15, so that's, I need a little help here. But good night, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Anna from Brazil. I'm the founder of Safe Drink Water for All, STW. It's a social environment startup. I also have some biotechnology and business skills from MIT, and the technology that I'm going to present is Aqualuz, that generates potable water through solar radiation. Well, in Brazil, there is not only people without access to clean water. There is people that has access to water supply, like these cisterns, that's more than 2 million in Brazil, but there is no filtration method, so the water is not clean. That's why Miguel, it's this boy from your right. One day he woke up really ill, feeling stomachache, and he lost a day of school. And his mother also lost a day at her job to take care of him. So Miguel was really lucky to not die because of this, but the waterborne disease kills more than 2 million people, 2 million kids all over the world. And that's why when I was 15, I started to develop Aqualuz. It's a breakthrough technology that has a UN recognition and uses solar radiation to treat water with microbiological contaminations for rural areas. It has a low cost of maintenance, it costs only 100 euros, can last for 15 years, and has 20 liters of water per day. That it's enough for a family. And the way that it works is really simple. So there is the water source, that is the cistern, then pass to the filter to reduce the turbidity of the water, then it goes to the light box, that is where the water will be exposed to the solar radiation and stay there for 2 hours. Then the user can drink the water safely. There is a comparison that we did with other technologies that is currently used. That's clay filter, chlorination, boil, and all of them has a lot of problems, of course, mainly for the chlorination, that it's really cheap, but there is some health issues associated for them. And Aqualuz costs only less than $1 for 100 liters of water treatment. It can last for 15 years, as I said before, has microbiological efficiency, and has a long during life, and no risk for the users. And then now we have a pilot in Brazil for 5 units. One of them is Miguel's mother. Now she finally can see her son playing and really healthy, and that's what we want to all the Brazilian families. They can see their kids grown up with access to education, with a good quality of health, and they will only be able to have this with access to clean drinkable water. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. We're not going to do questions in this session because we want you to keep all your questions for the networking afterwards. That's the purpose of it. And now we will welcome somebody that you have met already, Eliza, who is a living example of the huge impact that women leaders have in their communities. Eliza did continue growing after she was 15.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Elizabeth Ndukai from Kenya. I am the founder of Maji Mama. Maji Mama is a social enterprise led by Maasai women. During our dry season, people and animals were forced to walk for long distances to a water source. And it falls to a Maasai woman like me to walk for 5 to 8 hours looking for water. I kept asking myself, how can I change this? I came up with an idea of construction of rain harvesting tanks and pit latrines using a compressed earth technique for bricks. We received funds for 3 tanks, which are under construction. But our goal was to build 40 tanks to families, different families in the community, and 10 tanks in public places. Not only our project solve water and sanitation issues, but we also empower Maasai women through employment. Maasai women traditionally do not own herds, thus have little voice in the community. But if we have a small piece of business, men have to listen to us. And if we have our own money, we are able to make the changes we want in our families and in the community at large. We want more support to pilot this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliza. That's one of the tanks that Eliza's Maji Mama's builds. Now we will welcome Beth, also from Kenya. We try to ensure geographical balance when choosing the fellows, but sometimes they are too good and we want to include them all. So, Beth, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Beth Koigi, the CEO of Magic Water. I'm based in Kenya, and my professional, I have a postgraduate in project planning and management, but all my adult life, I've worked in water. 4 years ago, I started a water filtration business because, like many other organizations, I had seen a challenge of water contamination. But for the past 3 years, we have been suffering from drought in Kenya, and you go for 4 months with water rationing. So the government tells you when and what to use the water for. And it became apparent to me that it's even harder to filter water that you don't have. So I started looking at water scarcity and water stressed regions as my problem region. And the UN estimates that by 2025, 1.8 billion people will be living in water-stressed region, and a large proportion of this will be in sub-Saharan Africa. Right now, Kenya is 90% arid or semi-arid region. And we get rainfall on and off, and sometimes we go for years without rainfall. So I started looking at another water resource, and we looked at air. Did you know that there is 6 times more water in the atmosphere than there is in all rivers around the world? We started looking at the technology that already exists, and 2 methods are being applied in Middle East and in the US. That is the condensation model, where you pass air through a condenser and the water vapor is condensed, or you simply harvest fog or dew. But these technologies are great, but will not work in Kenya because of 2 reasons. They require a lot of energy and also require very high levels of humidity. We don't have that in Kenya. So we started looking at our own technology using desiccant material. When you buy a new shoe, you find a small packet of silica gel in that shoe. The purpose of that silica gel is to absorb the excess moisture in air, and you're using that because silica gel does not contaminate water in any way. So the water we get is pure, clean drinking water. So at the moment, we have a prototype that is able to get 10 liters of water in arid humidity of 50% relative humidity. Our next step is to do iteration on our prototype to increase our capacity. Right now, we have 100 liters, 10 liters, and we want to increase that to 100 liters. At Magic, we want to create a world where if you have air, you can have clean drinking water.
Thank you. That creating water from air, how important would that be at big scale to reduce the impact of droughts, right? So that you don't think that we're only choosing women and we're marginalizing men, we will now introduce Cesar from Mexico. Oops. I think this is, yeah. Cesar.
Hola. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cesar. I come from Mexico. I have to make a confession. For the past weeks in Switzerland, I was happy because I was surrounded by clean water, clean lakes, clean rivers. And that might be something very normal for you, but for me it's very meaningful because in Mexico, we have this huge problem with water pollution. I have lived most of my life next to a polluted river, and the cause is very straightforward. 30% of sewage is treated efficiently, and I'm not even sure of that. So this is the reason I became a chemical engineer, and for the last 3 years I have been learning by myself how to treat wastewater with by means of nature. So I believe in decentralization. This means that each household should have its own wastewater treatment system. But the current solutions are obsolete, they are inefficient, they pollute, they emit methane, and they stink. This is the main key point for our customers, stinkness. So the main solutions, the current solutions are septic tanks and cesspools. Fortunately, this will be a thing of the past because I have designed the Biopod. The Biopod is an ecosystem in a tank that harnesses the power of earthworms to efficiently treat wastewater treatment from domestic sources on site. When sewage enters the Biopod, the solids in the sewage, mainly human feces and toilet paper, are separated instantly from the liquids, and earthworms will consume these solids and will turn them into vermicast, which is a filter media that is capable of provide simple treatment to the wastewater. So the major advantages of this Biopod is that it is compact, it is easy to install and operate, and it is cost competitive comparing to traditional septic tanks. But the major feature is that as worms wiggle inside the tank, they promote air circulation, and thus it doesn't produce methane, and it doesn't produce any odors. So this is the best feature, the best value proposition that we offer to our customers. So far, my team and I have sold 20 units of Biopods and have installed these systems for 5 small and medium enterprises of the food industry in Mexico. But we are aiming to scale up our operations. We want to aim to the US market, where 2 out of 5 households depend on septic tanks. But the thing, we have an issue right now. We are not capable of responding very quickly. We are currently running an advertisement on Facebook. I actually received one notification of someone who is interested in our Biopod system, but we are not that's capable of responding quickly. So I'm looking forward for mentorship from your side. We want to extend our impact in North America. Well, this is a slide of the efficiency we have with our system, and please join us to achieve our mission, emulating nature to improve lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar. Cesar was mentioning the need for mentors, and mentorship is one of the key components of the fellowship program. So after this training finishes this week, they will be matched with mentors who will guide them with different challenges that they will have when setting up their businesses. So now we will welcome Nuha from Indonesia, our first fellow from Asia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I want to say thank you for supporting me, Mr. Yuri, the ambassador, the Embassy of Indonesia. And my name is Nuhan Farasi. I'm 18 years old. I'm from Bangka, Indonesia. This is Bangka, a small island, but we are the second largest producers of tin in the world. And as you can see, there are the miners from our local people. They don't have a company and they mine themselves. They create a big pit like this and are abandoned after several years. And they create a big pit and rain falls, and then we use the water from this pit. And this is the hikers of our community, because 86.8% of Bangkanese, our local people, are suffering of teeth decay because of the bad quality of the water. And this is what I've been doing with my friends last year in high school. So we made a special wastewater treatment, banks and water filter. We made from our local resources. It only costs $10, while others company costs like $50 because they see that lead ions is a thing that difficult to remove. And this is our startup, Aikite. Aikite is a Bangkanese language, so Ai is water and Kite is our, so it means our water. And we've been doing the identifying, and then we have the solutions, banks and water filter. Our missions as a startup company is we want to convert the waste water from tin mining to a clean water. We right now want to contribute more in our community, and our goal is 2,500 people in 3 years using our filters, so we can decrease the health issues in tin mining communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuha. So now we will do one of these interventions. Before we go to the second group of fellows, and we will invite Jan Gossens, who is the CEO of Aquafin, one of our partners. Aquafin has been key in the mentorship and the seed funding as well for fellows in our last edition and this edition too. My question to you is, how can the private sector support young entrepreneurs like them who are doing their first steps in the private sector as well, because they are setting up social businesses as well?
Thank you very much. Maybe very briefly explain what Aquafin actually is doing. Aquafin is the company that is treating the Flemish wastewater And we're doing that by operating approximately 300 of treatment plants and almost 2,000 pumping stations. So there's a lot of equipment going on there. And there's still a lot of equipment and a lot of infrastructure to build, because not only in Mexico, but even in Flanders, still 20% of the wastewater is going untreated to the river. So still some work to do, and that's why also the next years we will, with Aquafin, we will continue breaking up roads and causing traffic jams and bringing dust and mud into the houses, and probably that's why some time ago in the financial newspaper, the Tijd, Aquafin was referred to as the only officially sponsored terrorist organization in Flanders. So what can a terrorist organization do in a fantastic program like this? Well, a few things, I think. First of all, we're very happy to support financially 3 projects going on in Guatemala, one going on in Kenya, another one, and the third one in Indonesia, some financial support. But I think a lot more important than this financial contribution will be the possibility to have knowledge exchange, to gain also from the experience that Aquafin has from almost 300 specialized engineers. So that's the third thing. And the third thing certainly also will be that these projects will not always start up or work as they were planned to do from the initial point. So I think we can also give some moral support when things are not always working as they should, because even in a company with all this expertise as we have, things are not always running as I would like it to. We sometimes have technical problems. We sometimes have problems with our employees. And I don't mean the engineers, and I have to be careful because some of them are over there. But I mean our employees, also the bacteria. We use live bacteria, biological stuff to handle this wastewater for us. And generally they are very good workers. They reproduce a lot, they eat a lot, but sometimes they also strike. So we have some problems when there's something in the water they don't like, we have a strike. So some moral support if things are not going as they should. With our experience, we have it now and then also, or almost every day somewhere in one of the 300 water treatment plants. But I think this effect, this beneficial effect of this cooperation will be bi-directional, because we're a large company, corporate company, and I think we can really also be inspired, and I have been inspired already, from these new ideas that are generated from this entrepreneurial spirit that we have in the room here. So that can also be certainly fruitful for us as a large corporate company to be confronted with that. And also the fact that new ideas like this are generated in sometimes difficult circumstances, even scarcity. We all know that provokes creativity, and I think also from those technical ideas, also Aquafin can profit. So I certainly think it's a cooperation in both directions. And last but not least, of course, when these projects in Guatemala and the project in Indonesia and the project in Kenya is successful, we will be very happy to come over and to inaugurate this new product, have a lot of drinks, and I don't mean water, a lot of drinks. So thank you very much. I'm very proud to be part of this program, and a lot of success.
Thank you very much. Yeah? We will now continue with Amengo. Amengo is a good example of how social business can tackle both water and sanitation challenges at the same time. Amengo.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jacob Amengo. I'm from Ghana, and I'm the Chief Coordinator for iWash Africa. In the year 2000, I fell sick of diarrhea. I was taken to the hospital, and I was given an injection, which went wrong. I became lame in one leg and I couldn't walk. My mom took care of me with her capital for her business till I walked again, and her business went bankrupt. So that explains my passion for the water and sanitation sector. And since I started working in the water and sanitation sector in 2014, I mostly work in the rural areas in Ghana. And you see these children spending their school hours in search of clean water. You go to the hospital, you see the women spending time with their children in the hospital, time that they could use for their productive businesses. So I came together with a group of young people and we thought of an idea to solve this problem in our communities. So we came up with I Wash Africa. The I stands for integrated, so integrated water and sanitation hygiene. So we solve the water and sanitation challenges at the same time, not leaving the water behind or the sanitation behind. So we are building micro-flush toilets, which uses less water than the normal water closets that we have. We are building solar-powered water provision systems in these rural communities. For the operation and maintenance, what we are doing is that we are training the young people in these communities to be able to build such facilities and also maintain them as and when it is needed. We are also training the women's group in the communities to be able to manage these facilities so that they have a source of income. For it to be sustainable, what we do is that they pay for the water and they pay as they use the toilet facilities. So that with the funds that come in, we are able to expand to other communities and we are able to maintain the facilities too. The impact we are looking at providing affordable and easy access to clean water and sanitation to about 300 households in the first year. We also look at creating the first youth-led sustainable social enterprise in this community in the water region of Ghana. So today, I invite you to join us and support us as we accelerate access to clean water and sanitation in rural communities, especially in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Amigo. We talked before about the importance of stimulating students to come up with solutions. But here you will hear from Isabel from Guatemala a case of how university students can not only do research that stay in the university, but that apply that research in benefiting their communities. Isabel.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Isabel. I am a chemist. I am from Guatemala. And today I am going to talk to you about two economic activities, two problems, and one solution for both. So first, let's talk about the textile industry. The textile industry in my country is a very important activity for the economy. It represents 19% of the product that we export, displacing sugar and also coffee. But the negative impact is very high due to the frequent discharge of the dyes into the water bodies. The picture that you see there is not Photoshop. It's a picture that was published in a newspaper of Guatemala. So the problem with the dye, in addition to the toxic effect, is that it's very stable and it's very difficult to degrade. The traditional methods that could be used to treat the wastewater contaminated with dyes are electrochemical reactions, chemical press, and they have several limitations. The limitations are high operation costs, they are very expensive, So they make it expensive and difficult to acquire at a smallest scale. So now we can go and see another industry. And another industry is the shrimp industry. By now, my country is producing more than 50 million pounds of shrimps. But sadly, the weight of the shrimp, 50% of the shrimp is waste. So they are disposing all the shrimp shells waste into the landfills or even into the river, generating a problem, an environmental problem. But the shrimp shells are very, very interesting. And from them, we can obtain a polymer, a molecule that is called chitosan, that is very useful to recover the dyes of the water. Recover the dyes of the water. So this absorbent has all the characteristics of an ideal absorbent, and the most important is that you can regenerate the absorbent and recover the dye. So it allows to clean the water and recover the dye. Because of the low cost, could be acquired by the small textile industries and the artisans that make these beautiful textiles of my country that cannot afford a method for the treatment of their waste. So we are making a filter, low cost and easy operation for them to they be able to treat their waste. So I am looking forward to explain you more about the project, and I would like you to join this startup to make these industries more sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. We will now welcome Jonathan from Tanzania. When you approach Jonathan in the networking later on, you can call him Tanzania, because he has been calling all our fellows by their countries. So I told him, I threatened him to say in the teaching night that we will call him Tanzania as well if he continues with that. So thank you, Jonathan and Corey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jonathan Nkungu. I'm from Tanzania. One home, one latrine is possible. And today I'm going to tell you how this one can be possible. In Biharamulo district found in the western part of Tanzania, it was observed that only 5% of households have access to good sanitation facilities. The available latrines are in poor conditions. Lack doors, lack walling materials, lack roofing, even the squatting slab of the pit is not stable. So this situation is very terrible, not only to the health of people in my community, but also to the growth economy of my country, Tanzania, because there is a lot of deaths of young people under the age of 5 years, together with women due to the disease associated with sanitation issues. This is me, as you can see on the picture, but today I look nice, but this is a reality where this one problem is. One home, one latrine is possible. Me, together with a team of young people, we combine our effort and formed its organization. We come up with Sun Loan Initiative. We aim to tackle this problem, which is currently hitting our rural community. So through Sun Loan Initiative, we design and construct, together with provision of affordable latrine loan scheme with low interest rate, which are to be paid within only 2 time frame in order to finance this project to reach more other community members. The cost of building one latrine is $219 US, including interest rate, which are to be paid by these rural community members within 2 years time frame. We do this in order to make the project to finance itself. Even if today the donor will say, we don't fund you, the project can continue funding itself and reaching more target community members. Ladies and gentlemen, one home, one latrine is possible. Join me today to enable our project in 2 years to come to build 100 latrines, create 50 direct jobs, because we'll be employing directly the young people, including women and the men who are residing within the community where we are operating, and reaching more and improving the 1,000 health of rural community members through provision of sanitation, healthy education, and health practice. So we do believe that through this approach, we'll reach more target community members as we expected, and our model will be scalable and reach other rural community of Tanzania. Thank you very much. Asante sana.
Thank you, Jonathan. A great example of how to make affordable sanitation for the community. Now we will welcome Sonita from Cameroon. There are many water supply projects that do not consider the environment and are not made in an integrated way. So Sonita will. Sonita will tell us about how to provide water in an integrated way.
I also start blurring at everything. Hello, good evening. I'm Sonita Amba from Cameroon, and I'm a water catchment expert. I have learned by doing in the last 6 years. Since when I graduated from the university, I founded Blue Springs Cameroon, and I'm excited to share about it with you. And I'm going to be talking about it in 3 steps. My story, my team. We're going to be sharing about the challenges in my community and the solution, the unique solution we found for these challenges. So, good. In Cameroon, and in most rural communities in Cameroon, a lot of women travel long distances. But as I stand with you here, I go in retrospection to those moments when I leave elementary school and I'm coming back home and I'm feeling very terrible, very hungry and very angry, because I know there's a 200-liter container waiting for me, and I have to trek like 6 kilometers to fill this container. But also right now, the numbers of cholera cases in my country are just going up and up, and this outbreak is going like on a yearly basis. And all of this is happening because of very poor quality water and sanitation facilities in my country. So together with my team, you can see on the other side, we came up with this unique solution, Blue Springs, where we harness water from spring sources. Cameroon is blessed with spring sources. We harness good drinking water from spring sources, and usually we need to dig about 2 meters down underneath the earth to get the water from the actual source. And once we get it, we do a slow biosand filtration into a concrete tank. We pump it via solar energy to a more accessible part of the community, and we distribute it via water kiosks. What is unique about this model is that we're using a franchise business process where we're going into actual business with women in our community. We're signing, they're our real business partners. We're signing a contract with these women, and they're the ones selling the water, because we want to shift the system in the world where men are sitting in the management position and the women are paying for the water. But the women and our young girls are the ones who are actually going around fetching for water. So we're giving job opportunities to women, but also we're working with the women to grow trees, where we do catchment protection. We're replenishing the source of the water. We are protecting our environment. We're giving back ownership of the process to our communities. This is what we've been able to do. And on a yearly basis, we want to give access to at least 200 households, good quality drinking water, which is about 1,000+ people in Cameroon. And we, of course, needing your support, your mentorship, and a connection on how we can completely create an integrated water management system into business in Cameroon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonita. Now it comes the time for a second intervention, and this time I will invite Claudio Bacigalupi, the head of the water sector at DEFCO, the European Commission.
Thanks.
And Claudio, I have for you a question that is related to how the...
Shall I stand here? No?
You can if you want.
No, leave.
The question for you is, how can policymakers, how can governments better support young people to their first steps into entrepreneurship?
Thanks, Antonella. Ambassadors, young fellows first. Thanks for the invitation, first of all. Okay, I'm Claudio Bacigalupi. I'm dealing with water in DEFCO, so this is the Directorate for Development Cooperation here at the European Commission. Actually, I started almost 20 years ago in development. I started in Guatemala, and then I traveled a little bit between Latin America and African countries, and I've reached Brussels 2 years ago. Very happy to be behind a computer dealing with 140 countries around the world dealing with development activities. And I'm now in charge of following a bit the actions of the Commission in water and sanitation. So first of all, as a good kid, let me state a bit what our boss of the bosses, Claude Juncker, said yesterday for the State of the Union related to development cooperation, especially for Africa. He focused a bit on Africa, and he underlined one question related to the development of Africa, which is related to one of the two issues that I wanted to tackle tonight, which is dealing with education. I mean, we've been discussing with Antonella what would be my my subject of discussion tonight, and it was, I think that education is really at the base of all your activities. I mean, most of you are graduated, come out from university, positive grade, etc. So I think that this is really focused, something that has to be really encouraged when countries in Africa and Asia and Latin America have to be encouraged to really strengthen a sector, is the education sector. The Commission has spent between 2014 and 2020 and will spend until 2020 1.3 billion euros only in Africa in education, and 213 vocational training. So it's something that really has to be pushed at political and development level. Ourselves in the water sector, we work a lot with UNIDO. There is a friend of mine dealing with Water Center of Excellence. It's a network of universities in Africa dealing with water issues, forming and training people all around Africa. And this is really at the base of our, what we consider really indispensable to have people dealing with water. There is a recent study that estimated that only in 10 African countries we're missing 700,000 people working in the water sector. So it's a sector that needs people, especially looking at the growing of the population in Africa that is booming in the next 15-20 years. There will be a huge necessity of people, trained people, skilled people working in whatever kind of activity linked to water and sanitation. So this is really something that I wanted to stress. The second one, which replies a bit more to your question, what the governments could do, is really in short sentences to create an enabling environment, which means out of the African context, that the economies in Europe have been growing a lot based on small and medium enterprises. This is really the socle, the basis of the economies. I'm from Italy. Italian economy was really based on the growing and let's say the scaling up of small and medium enterprises. That is the case of the young fellows that are now starting with startups, etc. So that kind of activity, the government really have to push for it to increase the possibilities to access finance for training, twinning activities, even for with European companies like Aquafin is doing, that can benefit from their experiences. I was looking at you when the lady from Guatemala was showing the shrimp's effect on polluted water. I mean, that is materials that why not also European companies could buy in development world and use for treatments. And then another issue is to really use those experiences, small experiences, to foster research, to increase knowledge, because a lot of countries, they do not have those capacities in doing research. For instance, in Africa, in development countries, the research is basically inexistent. So those experiences can really construct a research experience in countries. And then you have really to use the unfortunate needs of today's economies, which are very linked to pollution. Pollution is everywhere. It's been calculated in a report that really was out 2-3 days ago. There are much more deaths in the world because of pollution than for malaria or all illnesses, HIV/AIDS. So the pollution is really an issue in the world, and I think that your experiences are really they should be focusing on that aspect that unfortunately will affect all of us in the next years. And just to conclude, I think that governments, they really have to look for those young guys and girls, because I mean they will be the ones that at the end of the 2030 agenda, in only 12 years from now, they will be at the top of the working class, let's say, that will bring up the economies of the countries where we live. So really to concentrate on them. Thanks.
Thank you very much. One of the outcomes of the fellowship program in the next 3 years it's to inspire, to use the cases of fellows to inspire policymakers to improve their policies to support water and sanitation young entrepreneurs. So we'll be looking forward to what Claudio mentioned. Now we will, for the last part of this pitching night, and before we go to some drinks, we will hear the cases, the initiatives of 4 other very inspiring entrepreneurs that have been doing the SEWA's startup training program together with the Young Water Fellows. So first we will welcome Purva from India. If you were here last year for our pitching night, you might remember Purva, because Purva was one of our 2017 Young Water Fellows, when we were not yet focusing on social entrepreneurships, but in different projects. Purva was one of our fellows, and this year she's doing SEWA startup training. So Purva.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Suraj Shrivastav. I'm a biotechnology engineer from India, and also the founder of NIRA, where we design biochar-based drinking water filters and set them up as social businesses for Indian women. So Indian villages like Dhulet are sites for extremely heavy and unregulated pesticide use. Just to give an example, in the same state, there was a study where researchers found extremely high levels of DDT in the breast milk of nursing mothers in rural areas. And more recently, just last month, in fact, there was a spate of unexpected deaths and unexplained cancers in neighboring districts. So groundwater contamination by pesticides is a very real and very huge risk, because just the long-term impacts of these chemicals is devastating. Cancers and reproductive illnesses, neurological disorders. So the solution that my team and I have been researching is biochar. It's an activated carbon which we produce from bio-waste from the same village in an environmentally sustainable process. And it's a fraction of the cost of commercially found activated carbon, which is traditionally used. We received seed funding this year, with which we have been able to, and we are currently doing our pilot project. We are training the women of Dhulet to operate a community level water kiosk and to dispense water at very nominal prices to their community. And in the process, they earn their livelihoods. So far, my team and I have been researching different feedstocks in urban and rural India. We use bio-waste. You see an invasive species called Ipomia carnea in the first picture, and in the second picture, it's coconut husk. So we build gasifiers ourselves from scrap metal, and we create biochar in them in an environmentally sustainable and extremely cheap process. Finally, we test the biochars we produce in the laboratory for their efficacy at removing the commonly used pesticides. And just as a note, many of these have been banned in the West for decades, and they're used in huge quantities in India. So the goal of our project is really to have this quadruple impact, where we're taking this bio-waste crisis in India and creating valuable products like biochar, also providing clean drinking water, sorry it doesn't say, but clean drinking water to these communities who cannot afford the methods on the market, to create and empower women entrepreneurs in rural India, and to create self-reliant communities and increase the community governance of water systems. Currently, we're looking for investors so that we can bring this technology to more communities in developing countries, and also a research partner with access to laboratory space, technical expertise to help us to improve our design. And yeah, thank you for your time. I look forward to discussing more about it with you over drinks. Thank you.
Thank you, Purva. I forgot to mention that the four entrepreneurs that you are listening to now, they are supported by SEWAS and by Swissery Foundation to be able to do SEWAS Startup Training Program. Now we will listen to Hiral from India, another great example of how technology developed in the university can really benefit communities.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Myself, Hiral Jariwala. I am from India. Since last 2 years, I am working as a water and sanitation consultant in western part of India. In India, we are facing lots of water and sanitation issues due to unplanned urbanizations and due to a rising of population in our country. So out of 1.3 billion people, 164 million people don't have access to clean water and sanitation in my country. 70% of sewage is being discharged every day without any treatment, and that may cause the public health and sanitation issues in my country. So during my master's program, I developed one reactor that called the sequential batch biofilm reactor, which can treat the domestic sewage with a good efficiency of 95%. And the picture you are seeing here, it's black media, which is called biopec media. The biofilm growth will take place on that media, and the contaminant will be removed by this reactor with 95% efficiency. So as of now, I am planning to develop the small prototype for the community. So what I have done, I connect the because this community don't have the sewer connections, they are just discharging into pond. So what I have done, I connect that community with a sewer line that will connect with the collection chamber, and that will directly go to my plant. So you can see the result of the final treated water. The treated water is almost like nil contaminants, only 5% contaminants present in this wastewater, and that wastewater you can use for the irrigation or the gardening purpose. I'm recovering the nitrogen and phosphorus from this sewage and converting it into sludge, and the sludge that you can use for the fertilizer. As of now, I'm looking forward for the young entrepreneurs to join my enterprise. I'm looking forward for the investors to support me to implement these solutions for the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kian. We will now welcome Samuel from Uganda.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Mutambi Samuel, and I'm a founder and a director of Water Farm, and I'm a farmer by practice and by birth. For many years, the world has talked about climate change. Politicians and scholars have designed the strategies to mitigate the effects of climate change. But unfortunately, in my country, climate change has surprised us and happened more than predicted. Now, the effects of climate change is seen in my country. It has altered the planting seasons, reduced the amount of rainfall, and when rainfall comes, it is also disastrous. It has reduced the planting season. Now production of food is unpredictable and is a very hard situation. Anyway, does this concern me? Does this concern you, ladies and gentlemen? My concern in this issue comes from my own story. In 2005, my sister, while traveling miles to fetch for water, she was raped and infected with HIV/AIDS. She suffered a lot and died a miserable death young and unnoticed. It's quite unfortunate. That story is my motivation to come out with an idea of eye wash by designing an affordable community-driven financing model for a rainwater harvesting system so that we can help the communities to harvest rainwater and mitigate the effects of climate change. At Harvest Rainwater, we work with communities to build rainwater harvesting system, but for us as Water Farm, we only finance the process by helping the people to build rainwater harvesting systems by giving them an affordable and a transparent credit option. With our project, we are helping people to harvest water for domestic use, to harvest water for courtyard irrigation farming, and also restoring the ecosystem or trees that has already been spoiled by the effects of climate change caused by human activities. So I call upon ladies and gentlemen to help me in this project so that we can save the millions of the people that are on the verge of extinction due to the effects of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. We will now invite our last entrepreneur sharing her initiative, Sarah. Sarah is a pioneer. She's the project she's going to tell you about. She's the first one developing in the country. So that takes courage.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mantalen Saramzaze, and tonight I want you to allow me to take you to Africa, but not just Africa, to Southern Africa. In a small country that's made up of a population of about 2 million people, and a country that's completely landlocked by South Africa is a country that we all know as Lesotho. Now in Lesotho, currently, this is the method of agriculture that is mostly used. As I've said before, that more than 90% of the food that we have in Africa, in Lesotho, is from South Africa. Now for the 10% that we have to account for, this is how we produce the food. Now with the current climate change, there have been prolonged droughts, there have been delayed rainfall. Now this means that this affects the already scarce 10% food production that we already have. I am an environmental and water science graduate, and it is hard for me to ignore the situation. How then do I merge water scarcity, food production, in order to bring about a sustainable solution? This is where I came about with the idea of introducing the first ever aquaponic system in Lesotho. What is an aquaponic system? An aquaponic system is basically a very simple system that uses the waste from fish, and the waste acts as a nutrient base for the plants. And the plants will take all the nutrients from the water, and then the water is recycled back into the fish pond. Now in Lesotho, recently, there was a lot of flooding, and that also adds on to this particular solution. How then do we use flooding during the drought season in order to integrate flooding? This is where the rainwater can be harvested during the floods, and the rainwater can be used as a source to run the system during the droughts. Now, the aquaponic system is much better than the traditional methods that rely on rainfall-based agriculture, in that not only will you be able to produce organic, nutritious food, and also fish is not that much of a staple food in Lesotho, so it would be quite interesting to add fish to the diet. Now, the aquaponic system not only benefits whoever is inventing it, but it can also turn into a community project. How would this come about? By facilitating the training of women and youth-led groups in order to curb the unemployment rate in Lesotho and to promote women empowerment also. Because in Lesotho currently, I'm part of the statistic. I graduated this year from the University of the Western Cape, but I haven't yet found an employment. Now, to be part of the solution, introducing such innovative and disrupting technologies is a way to play my part, to be part of the problem solvers in my country. And for me to be able to realize this goal, it needs partners such as SIWAS, partners such as the Swiss Re Foundation, who are helping individuals like me to come up with projects like this. And it doesn't only end with the training from the SIWAS and the Swiss Re Foundation. We also need donors to support initiatives like this that are sustainable in order to overcome poverty and water scarcity issues, and to promote the most important goal to me as an environmental and water science graduate, which is the sustainable water and sanitation for all. Thank you.
Sarah just said it all regarding the struggles that women face when trying to come up with businesses. So for this last intervention, we will ask Alice. Alice is the honorary founding president of Women for Water Partnership. And the question that I will ask Alice is, we have heard here a lot of testimonies from wonderful women, committed women, making differences in their communities. However, when we launched the call for applications, only 30% of the applications that we received are from women. There's a lot of work still to do to encourage women to apply for these opportunities. In your experience, and you have a lot of experience in gender and in women empowerment, what can we do to better support young ladies become water entrepreneurs?
Well, Your Excellencies, Water Fellows, and dear water friends, what can I say? What can I add to what we have heard this evening already? We learned from the best, and I thank Vice Prime Minister De Croo for reminding me why I founded the Women for Water Partnership. And it is because women are not only a target group for development interventions, they are agents of change. And the same applies to all youth and to women youth in particular. What can we do? Why are there so few women applying? Is basically what you ask, and how can we improve that? Well, I think we have heard a lot about gender equality and about that it is very important to make sure and that we are not longer, not by long there, Mr. De Croo said. I am not a feminist. I founded the Women for Water Partnership because I believe in the social strength of women's networks, because we are a social species as human beings, and gender is a social concept. It is a construct that is very diverse. It's not like it's the same in one country even. It differs from social strata, it differs from one country to the next, and even sometimes from one generation to the next. So there is no bespoke, we need bespoke solutions. There's not one solution fits all. And we have heard a lot about empowerment today. What is empowerment? Empowerment is not only training. Empowerment starts with creating an enabling environment. We have heard this also from the gentleman from the European Commission. It's not only about education. You can be educated, and we just heard our last pitch which said, well, I am trained, but I still haven't found a job. It's not only about that. It's about creating an environment in which men and women can strive to live to their full potential. What can we do to improve that for women? I think by working as young entrepreneurs with women's organizations, if I may say so, because there's a lot of social capital out there that we can harness to support those that are in disadvantaged positions and that do not even have access to university. Since there are so many, you remind me when my 3 minutes are up, because I didn't have time to rehearse, you only asked me today. So since there are so many ambassadors here, the representative of countries, their policymakers, I want to divert a little bit to why about investment. I have been reading an audit of the water and sanitation projects of the EU in 2012. It was audited by the EU Audit Commission. And one of the things that struck me in that Sub-Saharan Africa WASH analysis was that I don't know how many hundreds of millions or even billions that was in development aid money, but what struck me was that technically all those projects were in order, but more than 50% had not reached the intended beneficiaries. So we effectively waste 50% of our development aid money on unsustainable interventions. Then if you look at what is the type of money that goes into these wonderful initiatives, like the Water Fellows or even my Women for Water Partnership, and the way that is financed, then I don't have to, because I didn't know I was up here, so I don't have the most recent statistics, but I know that a couple of years back when I looked it up, not even 0.1% of the total ODA goes to projects that have gender as a first or second objective in their project. And even a fraction of that goes to women's organizations and organizations for youth. So imagine if we use all the wasted money on unsustainable infrastructure, only of the EU, and we invest that in this type of programs, I think that would help a little bit in making things better. I have not entirely answered your question, I know that, but I feel we have heard so much. We have seen the examples, why it is important. We have heard from Mr. De Croo why it is important. So I think let's not always talk about more money going into water and sanitation. Let us reassign part of that money to go to the right places, to have the social infrastructure match the physical infrastructure. And I have the honor of being in your steering committee, Bart and Antonella, and I have heard so many good things today. I think you have a program to be proud of. And I congratulate all the fellows in this room. Thank you.
So, for the past 5 weeks, we've been in this training and we found a friend, we found a mother, a father, and she never shouted at any of us. Some of us had the opportunity to talk about very private issues with her, and her warmth is amazing. So on behalf of Young Water Solutions, my colleagues, the Swiss Jury Fellows, and SEWAS, I want to say thank you to Anto.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm a bit emotional now, so I apologize for that. It's been amazing 5 weeks together with this group of 13 entrepreneurs, and the pleasure is all mine. And I don't have enough words to say how much I've learned from them. I'm inspired by them. And now I also want to take this opportunity before we go to the drinks to call the Young Water Solutions team, Joachim, Zoe, Bart, Winner, to come here on the front, because they are also the ones making this program possible. And I also want to ask for SEWAS trainers who are also here, Michael, Tandy, Franca. They have been training these entrepreneurs for 5 weeks, helping them with the smallest detail in how to make their projects, businesses that are sustainable. So this year. In the Young Water Solutions team, we have Joachim, who is one of our board members. We have Winner, who has been helping us with communications and taking care of the live stream and all the hundreds that are watching us over there. But there was, you have heard from him as president, with Zoe, who is also program support of this fellowship program. And then from SEWAS, we have Michael, one of the directors of SEWAS, Tandy, the program manager of the SEWAS Startup Training Program, and Franca, who has also made all the logistics of these 5 weeks possible. So thank you from the to everyone. Thank you very much.